Hey y'all, I'm Dan Hamilton, host of the Next Gen Warrior Show. On behalf of Chairman George P. Bush and our staff at the Texas Veterans Land Board, we are proud to announce a partnership with Hiring Our Heroes to produce a 3-part podcast series that will focus on military spouse entrepreneurship, wellness in the workplace, and service after service. Joining me today to announce this partnership and discuss the great programs and resources is Eric Eversole, the president of Hiring Our Heroes. Eric, it's great to see you again.
Great to see you as well, Dan. Really glad to be here today.
So let's jump right into this. At Next Gen Warrior, we really have had a great opportunity to bring on those in the armed forces and veterans who are either starting businesses, who are running businesses, and are really making an impact in the entrepreneurship space. And I am interested to know about the work that you guys are doing for military spouse entrepreneurship. It was an area that I was a little unfamiliar with, but there are some resources out there to help military spouses begin careers, take state lines, and really they can take internationally. Can you talk about the importance of military spouse entrepreneurship?
Well, Dan, it's a great question, and I would tell you, they're the forgotten heroes of the last 2 decades of conflict. Military spouses are, really managing installations or managing what's going on back at those installations. When we have forward deployed service members, they have a lot on their plates, and their sacrifice over the last 2 decades of conflict often go unnoticed. And it's something from a Hiring Our Heroes perspective we've been laser focused on for the last 9 years that we've been in existence, because what we're seeing is that not only are these military spouses making sacrifices when they have loved ones who are forward deployed or out to sea, the real challenge is that from an employment perspective, they simply can't find work. They're not getting the chances that they deserve, and it's really taken a toll on so many aspects of the family, and ultimately it's impacting things like retention. If you think about it this way, more than 2/3 of American families are dual income. 2/3. In the military community, it's the 40%. And so that missing income between 40% and 65, 66% is a huge deal for families. It means, difficulty paying for things that a lot of families in America can pay for. And so you certainly have the economic impact, but you also have the personal impact to military spouses who want to do more. They want the feeling and satisfaction of having great jobs and helping to take care of their families. And so for us, looking at entrepreneurial opportunities for these military spouses are important, not only for retention purposes and national security purposes, but it's really important for military spouses as part of our military community and how we take care of them. That's why we recently released our military millspouseroadmap.org. It's again, millspouseroadmap.org. It allows military spouses to start looking at some of their employment opportunities and how they navigate it. But it's one of those issues that I will tell you, when I talk to folks at the Pentagon and senior members of the services, including General McConville, General Berger, General Brown, all the senior service chiefs, this is an issue that they know ultimately impacts their ability to maintain the best and the brightest in this country.
Before we go on to the second episode, Wellness in the Workplace, you all just hosted a virtual military spouse entrepreneurship summit.
Right.
If you're a military spouse or you're a family member of somebody in the military who is interested in trying to grab some of those lessons learned, are they still able to participate in that virtual summit? Or maybe what I'm trying to say, can they go back and watch that online?
Absolutely. HiringOurHeroes.org/events. You can see that summit, which was hosted last week, again, involving senior leaders of government and the Department of Defense. Or go to millspouseroadmap.org to learn more about what they can do to prepare. Our entire website has a section or military spouses to help them learn, to empower themselves, and create those opportunities that they deserve. And, we have fellowship opportunities across the country, which are internships, really making a difference for these military spouses. So visit hiringourheroes.org to learn more about that. And, we want to help you and hear your stories.
Episode 2, we're going to focus on wellness in the workplace. And this is very critical for the veterans community who is trying to confront suicide, who is trying to confront and overcome issues of isolation, anxiety, depression, and at times chemical dependency. It's really, though, not an issue that is specific to veterans. It's something that mental health has become kind of, I think, come to the forefront of the national conscience. Hiring Our Heroes also is working with the Prevent White House Task Force. They did a great job. They came in and spoke with Commissioner Bush here in Austin about the work that they are doing to try to provide solutions for veterans to make sure that they can live healthy lives after they leave the military. You guys are making or trying to make and working with the business community to make mental health a priority. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's such a great topic, and it's one that's so important to our country. And as you mentioned, not just our service members and their family members, but for all Americans. Mental health and wellness for a vast majority of Americans starts and ends at work. And just a fact. And we think about so many of the bad outcomes that happen to service members. A lot of that can be tied to lost economic opportunity as they transition from the military to the civilian sector. And so creating that sense of purpose through work, creating that sense of satisfaction, allowing people to be able to take care of their families, those are all things that work provide. And it doesn't mean that we're tied or married to our jobs, but it does, create, the environment which people can thrive. And if you don't take care of that in the first instance, then, so many bad outcomes can result in a service member or American's life when they can't take care of their family, when they can't find those employment opportunities. So, when we talk about wellness for us, it starts and ends with, a successful transition. And then once we even get from the transition into the workplace, how do we create environments that are welcoming and empowering to the men and women who work in your business? And that's so important. And it's become especially important as a result of COVID-19. We started this effort last fall. We knew it was important last fall. We were working with the VA and the Prevents Executive Order Task Force. The VA came to us and said, look, the suicide issue has to stop. We have to tackle it. But the reality is that people spend a lot of their adult waking lives in workplaces where we don't have an ability to necessarily connect with them. Can you help us figure this out? And we said, absolutely. But, from our perspective, we weren't going to do it just for veterans because we knew this was a national issue. And we said, look, we have to create policies and procedures and practices that help all Americans, because we don't want to isolate veterans or service members as someone who are the only ones who have these challenges. It's just not true. And so how do we empower your entire workforce to start taking care of each other? And COVID has fast-tracked all of this. I mean, as soon as, the country started to start working at home more frequently back in the spring, the issues of how companies and businesses take care of its people quickly were put in the spotlight. And it really starts and ends with frontline managers and leadership in business simply trying to find out, how are you doing? I mean, it's a simple question, but it is so powerful in looking out for indications that someone may be having a little bit of trouble one day, and just lending an ear and trying to help them find resources if there's greater problems. So, from my perspective, we can't talk about it enough. It's not and we can't talk about it as, kind of the whisper stigma issue. we have to talk about it from a perspective that, Dan, whether it's you, whether it's me, whether, I don't want to speak for the land commissioner, we
Right.
those days. And it's part of being human, and how we lean on each other and talk about it is how we navigate those challenges.
Well, I know you have done such a great job of bringing this to the corporate and the professional side of things. And here at Next Gen Warrior, we often talk about the personal side of veterans and encouraging them, like, hey, if you're struggling, ask for help. There is no harm in saying, hey, calling up a battle buddy and saying, hey, man, I'm struggling at work. I'm struggling with my family. And one thing too, before we move on, is that another thing that we try to encourage veterans, and I know our staff at the VLB does, to take care of your mental health as your physical health. And we try to say, hey, man, in this time when you're working remotely, when you're in the four walls, if you're feeling some of that isolation, if you're feeling some of that anxiety, you got to go out and walk. Like, try to stay active. Go work out. Try to exercise your body to keep your mind in a healthy place. The last episode here is after service, and this is one that I'm really excited about because we have so many guests on our program, which I appreciate you being a guest and coming on and talking about the success stories of veterans. And that's really what I love talking about, is how do we take the success stories, how do we take the lessons learned, and how do we take those who have overcome their personal and professional hurdles, may it be mental health issues like we were just discussing, or maybe it's career issues. But you guys have found a great way to smooth some of that transition process by, again, working with employers through the corporate fellowship program. And this has really begun a pipeline for those in the armed forces to begin their professional careers.
Yeah, Dan, I can't highlight this enough. And I'll tell your entire audience, if you're an employer out there, you're looking for talent and you want to kick the tires before you take it, go to hiringourheroes.org/fellowships and learn about our corporate fellowship program. It is a DoD partnered program. It allows us to take active duty service members for 12 weeks right before they get out, put them in an internship program with your company. You don't pay their salary. DoD continues to do that. You interview the talent before you take anyone. And at the end of 12 weeks, we hope you hire them, but you're not obligated to. But let me tell you, 93% of our fellows have been hired, and the average salary is $96,000. And it's because companies are able to evaluate talent based on someone's performance and who they are, and not a piece of paper. And fundamentally, that's why it works. We think about service members, and this has been one of the great challenges in the last decade for hiring our heroes. We can talk about all the great things that service members bring to the table: leadership, the commitment, the focus on mission, all of these great skill sets that every business wants in this country, but they're non-technical skills, and they're really hard to evaluate on a piece of paper. I tell people I could put "I'm a great leader" on my resume all the time, and no one's going to buy it, not for a second. It's about seeing the person in action. And ultimately, that's what the fellowship does. It allows you to see somebody's leadership in action, evaluate talent, whether it's going to be a good fit for you, and then you make the decision whether you hire them. This seems like a strange concept in the military. We're going to let somebody, last 12 weeks of active duty, go do something with some company and still get paid. This is the same way that college kids in America get their jobs. This is not a strange or foreign concept in how Americans get their jobs. Think about, the great skill sets that college kids learn. Yeah, they can go to UT or Texas A&M or whatever, plug in whatever Texas school you're from. But the reality is that bachelor's is a credential, right? And the way you get jobs is based on networking, relationships, and internships. And if we start thinking about our service members in the same way, and how we allow companies to evaluate talent based on people and not paper, we're all going to be better off. And that's what the fellowship program does. And again, there's no cost to a company to participate. Yeah, you're going to have to invest a little bit of time, but it's going to be well worth the investment. I can assure you of that.
Well, I know for speaking, for somebody here who is born and raised in Texas, we have such a culture of appreciating veterans here. We have massive military bases, massive military presence here, and I know on behalf of Chairman Bush, our staff at the Texas Veterans Land Board, we appreciate you guys providing these great resources to those in the armed forces who may be here or across the United States or internationally, to make sure that they can come home, get plugged in their community. And really, as we always try to encourage those in the armed forces, when you get out of the military, continue to find ways to lead and serve so that, you can continue to be a resource for those around you, whether it's in your workplace or whether it's in your community. And Eric, I appreciate you joining us today, talking about these great resources. We're proud of this partnership. I can't wait to have these 3 podcasts go out so we can dive into these issues at greater length and really try to support the armed services community as well as the veterans community, and bring them the resources and the encouragement that they need.
Yeah, well, I'm really honored to be here today, obviously, and to kick off this partnership. And I don't know, I know that Texans don't need any self-validation as to how good they are, but I will tell you, on the back end of the data that we study, we're seeing that leaps and bounds more service members want to go back to Texas or move to Texas, even if they're not from there, as a result of the opportunities that you all are creating. And so, I know no Texan I've ever met needs a pat on the back. That may even end up in a fight if I pat him on the back, but
that's true. Yeah.
You guys you're doing God's work and doing some amazing things, and really it's this podcast is just one small example of that work. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Eric. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for all the hard work of your staff at Hiring Our Heroes. For more information on benefits and resources, please visit hiringourheroes.org and vlb.texas.gov, and let's make an impact and support the veterans and armed services community here in Texas, across the United States, and around the world. On behalf of Chairman George P. Bush and our staff at the Texas Veterans Land Board and Hiring Our Heroes, thank you for tuning in.